Okay, Mission 12, go save Hypsilophodon. Hypsilophodon lived around 160 million BC. It was 8 feet long and an herbivore. This two-legged dinosaur was very speedy, so you'll have to be very fast to catch it.
160 million years ago, huh? That means it's in the Jurassic period. Okay, in the Jurassic period, there should be a Hypsilophodon around here somewhere, right? I mean, wait a minute. Okay, get this. The game clearly said the Hypsilophodon lived 160 million years ago, but after searching around a bit more, I found it hanging out in the Cretaceous period. Well, guess what? I did some internet research and found out that the Hypsilophodon actually lived around 130 million years ago. That puts it in the Cretaceous period. This game had 9 QA testers and nobody caught this. This is supposed to be an educational program, but when you somehow get simple facts like that wrong and right at the same time, it's just... Word of warning, guys. It's only gonna go downhill from here.
Welcome to 3D Dinosaur Adventure. Get ready. Put your 3D glasses on. Welcome to Dinosaur Adventure 3D. To take your virtual reality tour through the park, click on the doorway. If you want to go directly to an activity, just click on one of the buttons at the top of the screen. Be careful. The park is filled with dinosaurs. Some of them are dangerous.
Well, I gotta be honest, that little 3D intro isn't actually all that bad. And that's probably the only positive thing I'm gonna say about this entire program. In fact, here's an interesting anecdote. When I was still a kid and we got our first 66 MHz DOS computer, it came with a number of Activity Center programs, one of which was 3D Body Adventure, which I covered last year for Edutainment Month, and another of them was today's ancient DOS game, 3D Dinosaur Adventure. And back then, I liked this program more than the other. Now that I've taken a look at both of these programs with more matured sensibilities and far greater game design skills, I can honestly say that while 3D Body Adventure had much less to do overall, it's probably the better program of these two, simply because 3D Dinosaur Adventure is a mess. So here's the thing. Activity Center programs are supposed to engage children while teaching them about various things in the process. The more engaged the child is, the more stuff you give them to do, and the more information you can impart without losing their interest, the better your program will be overall. 3D Dinosaur Adventure is littered with control problems, randomization glitches, contradictory information, very annoying voice acting, and a surprisingly limited amount of content for each of the different activities. So much so that after about maybe 3 or 4 hours, you'll have exhausted all of the entertainment content in this program. True, that's more than 3D Body Adventure, but more isn't necessarily better, and this thing is a prime example.
Click on the dinosaur that was a close relative of Tyrannosaurus rex and loved to eat other dinosaurs for dinner.
3D Dinosaur Adventure was released by Knowledge Adventure Incorporated in 1993 and is a one-player activity center program. It runs in two different 256 color VGA resolutions, 360 by 480 when dealing with the graphical user interface, and 320 by 200 when the 3D engine is going or when viewing anything that has flowing movement. It supports multiple sound and music devices, and while you can select separate devices for each, doing so requires you to actually type in the file names of the device drivers you want to use. So I kinda don't recommend doing that. Just pick a device for both and stick with it. As for its current release state, it's still commercial, but dirt cheap from places like Amazon and eBay, and if you spend more than a few dollars on a copy, you're getting ripped off. I should also point out that this game had multiple revisions, including releases in 1996 and 1999, and while I don't know anything about those revisions, the 1999 version is supposedly an award-winning program. So I'm guessing the developers learned from their mistakes, because this old DOS version isn't going to be winning any popularity contests anytime soon. 3D Dinosaur Adventure is split into 10 different sections, which includes a tour system you use for getting from one activity to the next. The other activities include a reference guide for looking up all kinds of information about dinosaurs and related topics, a photo safari game, a 3D museum where the vast majority of the red-blue anaglyph 3D stuff is kept, a storybook you can flip through, a selection of dinosaur-related movies, some of which are 3D rendered, some of which have been done with stop motion or puppetry, create a source mode, which is, you'll see, a Name-a-Saurus game, a Who Am I game, and the main attraction, the Save the Dinosaurs game, which utilizes a real-time 3D engine. Before we talk about any of these activities though, we really need to discuss the controls. The entire game has been designed around mouse exclusivity, and while the keyboard can be used for a number of things, doing so is usually more annoying than simply using the mouse. But because of this focus on the mouse, and because you're expected to travel in forwards directions for extended amounts of time in several of the interfaces, you're going to be finding yourself spending an inordinate amount of time just pushing the mouse up, pushing the mouse up, pushing the mouse up, it gets old pretty quickly. But worse still, you're expected to stop pushing the mouse up at very specific points, and then push the mouse left or right without pushing upwards more in order to go down separate routes. Worst mouse controls ever. Mercifully, the developers must have realized at some point how ridiculous this was and gave players a selection of buttons at the top that would automatically go through the park tour to the desired destination, which doesn't help for the museum or the 3D engine games, but I'll take what I can get. So let's go through the different activities. Sadly, the reference guide is one of the more interesting aspects of this program and has an extensive amount of information available. Not just about dinosaurs, but about prehistoric times in general. Heck, every topic is given a certain year in which it occurs, and you can actually go back in time all the way to the birth of the universe. There's also a world map for accessing topics by their location instead of by looking it up in the index or by using the timescale. I should also note too that just like in 3D Body Adventure, some of the pictures and videos that come up do have anaglyph support. But unlike in 3D Body Adventure, where you could turn the anaglyph mode on even with pictures that didn't support it, here you can only turn the anaglyph mode on with pictures that have proper anaglyph support. So I guess there's that at least. Next we have the Photo Safari game, where you're basically given 4 pictures, each with a particular dinosaur in them, and a voice gives you a description of a dinosaur and you have to match that description to the dinosaur. Now, something I should probably point out about these games is that, short of the 3D engine game, you can't actually lose any of these, and all of them are just variations of clicking on pictures given different information. Now, I know this is intended for children, and that it's typically not a good idea to make such a game in a way that could be lost in a spectacularly nuclear fashion or whatever. But still, the fact that making mistakes has no effect on your final score doesn't really encourage kids to improve their performance. Next up is the 3D Museum, and wow, they actually managed to take their broken mouse controls and make them even worse. Unlike in the tour system where you get little icons indicating when you can turn the mouse side to side, those icons don't exist here, meaning you pretty much have to guess when side-to-side mouse movements will be permitted. Other than that, this thing is a very poor use of 3D, and anaglyph effects here aren't nearly as good as they were in the opening introduction movie. Not to mention, you only have to spend about 2 minutes in this mode and you'll have seen pretty much everything it has to offer. Next is the Dinosaur Storybook. This is one of the worst storybooks I've ever read in my life. It's way too short, the pictures are grainy and hard to look at, and it feels like it was intended for kids younger than the recommended age range of this program. Heck, I had a dinosaur storybook when I was a kid, and it was a heck of a lot better than this thing. In fact, Yeah, that's another thing. Whenever you quote-unquote win one of these activities, you get a short little animation congratulating you, and they're all actually really annoying. Well, at least the animation itself isn't that bad. Next up, we have the Dinosaur Movie Theater, which has a selection of 25 little animations you can view, most of which are under 30 seconds, but a few of them are over a minute long. Now, the quality of them ranges quite a bit. This one right here, for 1993, this is a very interesting little animation and has a surprisingly high level of quality, including motion blur and a very lifelike movement. Some of them are sort of teetering between lame and awesome though, like this one right here, which depicts a baby dinosaur hatching from an egg. It's harmless enough. Then there's some that are just confusing, like this one right here of a Triceratops, which kinda looks like an animatronic at a theme park or something, since it barely moves. I guess overall they're not really that bad. Wait, what's this one? Care to Dance? What?
Hey, there's Triceratops.
Oh, no, not this guy again.
Hey, Triceratops, I think there's something on your shoulder. Here.
Listen, Rex.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing? Look, why don't you just go bother somebody else, okay? Like, I saw a Dinosaur a couple miles back, I think.
Yep, I'll get it.
If you would just...
Almost got it. Oh, it slipped away.
Stop already! God, this program constantly finds new ways to be annoying. In fact, I'm not gonna play it anymore. I'd rather play Xenophage than this program. I'd rather play the DOS version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In fact, I'm gonna go do that right now. Oh, that was an amazingly stupid idea. Ugh. Let's just get back to 3D Dinosaur Adventure. The next mode is the Creatosaur mode, where you basically choose from one of 10 different dinosaurs and 10 different texture patterns to apply to it and get to hear insufferably awful jokes about the combination you just picked. Why am I still playing this? Next is the Name-a-Saur game, where you're given a dinosaur name and have to match it up with the correct picture. Simple stuff, but I've noted that sometimes the randomization doesn't properly kick in, and all the right answers end up in order, from top to bottom than left to right. The next game is called Who Am I? And basically you're just given a close-up picture and have to match it to the correct picture along the sides. This one's a bit more challenging than the others, but again, no way to lose and no way to get less than a perfect score. That just leaves us with the Save the Dinosaurs game, which uses a real-time 3D engine, the same as was used in 3D Body Adventure. The goal of this game is to rescue 15 dinosaurs from the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous time periods before a comet hits the Earth and kills them all off. I'll spare you the time paradox rant and how this game makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Instead, I'm just going to explain the basic gist of what's actually going on here. Basically, each time period leads you past two intersections and into an open wilderness with several dinosaurs. If you face the correct dinosaur and click on it, you get sent back to the main hub and proceed to try and locate the next dinosaur. The order you rescue them all in never changes, and the first 10 immediately identify which time period they can be found in, while the last 5 force you to figure this out from the hints you're given. That said, you're always given a silhouette of the dinosaur you need to find, so it's not nearly as hard to identify them as one might imagine. In fact, most of the hints you're given are pretty useless because of that. There's a couple traps that get in the way too, including Dromaeosauruses who hide in the dead ends and take away a small amount of time, and various kinds of giant insects which sometimes pop up, but don't actually move around or anything. And you get past them by clicking on them, which shoots them with some sort of invisible laser weapon you apparently have. Whatever. And if you touch them again, you just lose a small amount of time. Once you rescue all 15 dinosaurs, you get a message praising the heck out of you and saying to do it all over again to see if you can do it even faster. Which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, this game gives you so much time to complete it, and you even get extra time whenever you rescue a dinosaur. Heck, I don't think I've ever seen what happens if you run out of time. That actually gives me an idea. Whatever works, right? Okay, let's see what happens.
A cousin of Velociraptor, and just as mean. Next time you'd better watch where you go, because I might just eat you.
That is grade A nightmare fuel right there, folks. Oh, wow. That just made this whole thing worth it. Maybe. Overall, 3D Dinosaur Adventure is one of the worst edutainment titles ever created, at least in this first iteration. I can't imagine the later versions being worse than this, but then they're Windows games, so I doubt I'll ever be covering them. Not to mention, I don't own them. But yeah, the only reasons I would ever recommend picking up this version of the game would be either nostalgia, sake of collecting, or morbid curiosity. Otherwise, there are plenty of better titles out there to be exposing your kids to. If you really want to set this thing up in DOSBox, just set cycles to max and you're good to go. Yeah, nothing else to say about it, really. Anywho, that's all for today's episode of Ancient DOS Games. Unfortunately, I don't really have much else in the way of edutainment titles, and I really don't want to fill up this month with nothing but knowledge adventure activity centers. So, I've got an idea. Next week, for episode 110, I'm going to cover a game that's actually highly educational, because it teaches you how to run down pedestrians, and gives you bonus points if you do it with style. Yeah, I'm totally going the opposite route here, but after today's abomination, I think we all deserve to indulge a little. So if you think you know which game it is, then send in your guess to adg@pixelships.com and tune in next Saturday to check it out.
Universe at a glance.